Do you want to profit more from tennis betting? If the answer is yes, then this video is for you. I've actually doubled my profits over the last season by changing my strategies and adding a few more increments to the way I'm betting, and I want you to do exactly the same. So let me show you how to profit from betting. I'm Tony from Bet Analyst, a full-time professional gambler. Let's crack on. So I'm going to do most of this by a whiteboard, but I'll throw in a few sparkly images just to keep you interested. Right, so let me talk you through this. This is first of all the clarity that you're going to need to understand. Right, first of all, I've taken last season's 7% into 14.8% this season. Now, the bets are just on WTA only, so nothing else, no ATP, no ITF, WTA. This is all pre-match betting. As far as in-play betting goes, I keep a separate record of that. Things don't change much, and I do most of that actually using Pinnacle Oddsropper, which I'll explain later. I've also got 432 bets into the system, so I'm expecting 750 to 800 by the end of the season. Now, all of these bets, I've got to tell you, are done on the sharp books, the exchanges, right? You know, where I'm not going to get banned, where I can get money down, where I can get a little bit of liquidity there. So, you know, bear that in mind. But one thing I just want to mention is, even though I've done this so far this season, it doesn't guarantee that it's going to finish this way. You know, past performance means nothing, but it just shows that we're on the right track, and I just want to show you how I'm actually making more. In explaining my improved performance, this part is very important. So I've got no hangers on anymore. We sold a business, right? We made our money, and yes, we got out of something after quite a long time together as a group, and yeah, so they're doing their own thing and I'm doing mine, which allows me to focus more. Now, one of the things is, when you're running a betting syndicate or when you're working with others, right, you need to get massive numbers down. Now, I do that in a different way. I'll explain that a little bit later. But as far as more focus goes, at the moment, right, I'm averaging about 72 pre-match bets per month on WTA, and that compared to before, when we averaged as a group 194. So you can see it's quite a significant drop there, you know, so that's one of the factors. But the difference is, I only had like a 40% share in that business, because it was a 40% share for two partners and then 20% basically for the staff that were doing the work, right? So as far as we were concerned, you know, it was 40%. So if you actually take the 194 and you bear in mind that was actually getting 7% like I mentioned before, right? So you've got 194 times by 0.07 and then times by my share, which was 0.4, right? And you can see then I was making 5.43 units per month in terms of profits, right, on the actual stake. Whereas now I've got to 72, but like I said, we increased the profit to 14.8%, so by 0.14, and because I've got a 100%, I don't need to obviously times that, and so I've got a 10.656 units profit per month. So now you want some of the juicy stuff. So let me just go through the key principles, right? How I managed to actually double my profits, right? So 90% of my bets are in the first two rounds. So that's proportional. Probably about 60% are in the first round and 30% in the second round. After that, the sportsbooks, they get a good feeling of what's happening. They've got form to go on. They can see who's in the groove, and they're watching matches too. So, you know, it gets more difficult at that stage. When I'm actually betting, because I'm trying to get the maximum down that I can, I actually take around 60 to 80% of the max that's allowed. Now, if you're betting in Asia, you know the limits, you can see them, right? So if you see it's 1,000, you probably take 700, 800, something like this, and then you will just wait a few minutes and you could actually tap the market again. By doing that, you're not actually showing any line movement to anybody else, and so, you know, you don't get the sort of followers going in there, right? So just bear that in mind, you know, if you're trying to sort of keep the price up, doing the 60 to 80%, 100% and then going back for another stab is a way to go about it. And the other thing is I mix up the handicap lines and the money line come to that, right? It doesn't matter to me as long as it's proportional. As mentioned, WTA inconsistencies are fantastic. It's a great thing for us in terms of professional betting. Now, this is also one of the secrets. It's the CLV, the closing line value, you know, when the actual match starts compared to the actual price you took. If you're willing to work at it and you just want the easy money, get yourself a Pinnacle Oddsropper. Now this software, it tracks the falling odds at Pinnacle Sports, the sharpest sports book in the world. It gives you a benchmark odds that you need to beat, and by actually getting higher odds, you create what they call expected EV, expected value, right? Do this on a regular basis and you are certain to profit. We highly recommend Pinnacle Oddsropper. It's a secret weapon that you can use to make easy profits from sports betting, and if you're in a position to bet with the soft sportsbooks, just do it. Now we're going to get into the metrics, the stuff that's going to make you the money, right? If you learn this, then you will make money, but it's all about your knowledge, right? So this is what you've got to acquire. So I need you to think outside the box, right? Most people are just looking at ranks, how they've done on the surface, and maybe the head-to-head, and that's about it. But we're not going to talk about that right now. What we're going to talk about is the types of tournament first. This is what you need to understand. There's 4 different types of tournaments. It starts with the lowly 250, then it goes to the 500s. You've got the 1000, which are the classics, which everybody wants to win, and then of course you've got the Grand Slams. Now what you've got to understand about these tournaments is quite simple, right? If you actually win a 250 tournament, your actual prize money for winning that is just $30,400. If you just get into the first round of a Grand Slam, you don't have to win it, you've just got to get into the first round. You get $66,000 for getting into the first round. So if you qualify, you get $66,000. So obviously, you know, the effort's going to go up. You get $94,000 if you progress to the second round of a Grand Slam. Right, so obviously, the top players, they're not going to be interested in these 250 tournaments. They might turn up because it might be in their country, you know, they might just be tuning up for the bigger tournaments, and it just basically, you don't want to take them at any cost. If you see a top 20 player at a 250 tournament, you're going to start thinking to yourself, at some stage they're going to get beat, unless of course they're looking for like a confidence booster. Just a quick example of that as well was recently on the grass circuit, you know, in Berlin. Alexandrova beat Benkic very easily in the first round, and then they met at Wimbledon last week, and what happens? Benkic wins. A tennis player's preparation is something I'm really big on. Now if you go to tournaments, you're going to see this for yourself, but some of you have been there for a few days actually practicing, you know, getting into the swing of things, right? They're going to have an advantage when it comes to that first round, and because we're concentrating on the early rounds, we need to know this. Right, but if, for imagine that they was playing another 250 tournament, they got to the final and they played on a Sunday, and now all of a sudden they've got to play on a Monday or Tuesday at the new tournament, they're going to struggle, aren't they? They've had no time to prep, they're going to be having fatigue from the week before, and that could be a big factor. Now what I would suggest that you do is keep in touch with like social media platforms of different players. Not all of them are there, but look at the tournament itself, right? See when players have turned up, look at the coaching sessions and so on, right? You can find out that information. It is important. Also, traveling distance. This is something, you know, if they're traveling a long way, or even if it's a difficult journey. Some places, they might be close to you, but they might be more difficult than actually taking a 2-hour flight, right? So bear that in mind. Also, if they're changing the continent, you know, it happens at different times of the season, they're probably going to face a time difference, you know, this sort of 4 or 5 hours. And in some cases, I've seen them face 12 hours and play the next day. They got stuff, right, great to know, and you can actually take advantage. If you know when players are turning up, preparation is a big factor. The horses for courses theory. If they did well on their previous visits to this particular tournament that they're playing in, then they've got to do well. They might be protecting points even, right? If they reach the final last season and they actually get out in the first round this time around, they're going to lose points. They're going to drop down the ranking. Now this is obviously important, right? But The courses there, it shows you, it proves that they are ready for that tournament, that they can play on that surface, and that, yeah, you know, they're going to be focusing because they know they can do it, right? So take into consideration also the expectancy. You know, if you meet a better player in the first round, right, you know, somebody who's much better and they was knocked out, you don't take it as a big negative, right? You've got to be realistic, you know, about a player's ability, their form and so on, right? So if they had that situation the year before where they played somebody who was way too good, then you might want to sort of, you know, give them a bit of leeway. So just think about that one. Also, with the playing surfaces. Now, a lot of you are going to be thinking, okay, we know the 4 playing surfaces. There's hard, there's clay, there's, I was going to say soft court, but indoor court and grass. They're all different, irrespective of its grass. Some grass is faster, some grass is slower. Also, bear in mind altitude, you know, the movement of the ball, weather conditions. If it's been raining, if it's been damp, it might be slower. Just bear in mind that not all playing surfaces are equal, so try to sort of put them into some type of group and understand, you know, which type of players benefit from what type of surface. I would certainly encourage this. Learn to read a player's profile, right? You can use websites like tennislive.net and so on. There's loads of them out there, and they've got all the data there. You can actually comb them, and it won't take you long to get a really good understanding. You've probably got to do it for the top 100 players if you're thinking about it. Then just bring anybody else in that, you know, starts to rise up out of the ashes. This is what you're looking for. You're looking to see whether they're consistent or inconsistent. Right? Some players, you know, you can actually know exactly what you expect from them, and they deliver it in, week out. They lose when they should, and they win when they should. But unfortunately, with the WTA, or should I say fortunately, the things tend to be a little bit different, right? So you look at their inconsistencies, you might find something there. Also, the type of player that they actually beat. It's all about sort of trying to profile the players and putting them into some type of group, and it'll give you some idea of what to expect, you know, what they can actually beat and what they actually lose against. You can also consider, do they actually beat players who are higher ranked than them, or is it always the same? Are they just beating players who are lower ranked, right? So look for that type of stuff within the profile, and I'm sure it's going to sort of help you out, right? Also, the tournament types. Right, some players, you know, they're particularly good at the 250s and the 500s, but even though they've got an high ranking, they don't do particularly well at the bigger tournaments. I can think of quite a few names there, but I'm not going to mention any. Also, stage of tournament, some players well prepared, get started quickly, win the first matches, look really impressive, but then they fade, right? So that's something. Also, there's those who are sort of hit and miss in the first rounds, but they actually, once they've got their foot into the tournament, they actually improve, right? So, you know, that's something to consider. There's certain times of the year also, that might be sort of tied in with the surface, but often it's about fitness, about what time of the season they actually played well in, you know, the year before and so on, and how they respond to long and short matches, right? Some players, you know, they're impressing, they're winning 6-2, 6-2, and then they'll come up in a battle and they'll lose it. Other players are sort of dug in, you know, they're playing 3 sets every day of the week, and they can just continue that way. They're not going to feel fatigued. So it's a fatigue question. Just think about how they respond to that. And then you might want to take into consideration how many matches they play within the season. Now, the thing that's important with this is that it's going to affect their ranking. You know, if somebody's like Mugova, you know that they can't play week in, week out. They're going to have to sort of pick and choose when they play their season. A lot of players are injured, so they can't keep busy schedules. Some others can play 80 matches, 100 matches, and it's absolutely no problem, right? So bear that in mind, because it does affect the rank, and you've got to try to work that out for yourself. So if you're serious about betting, I would definitely suggest that you subscribe to the channel, because we're going to be giving a lot more sort of tutorials going forward. We've got a proper studio coming up, and we're going to be doing that properly. I would also just mention that we do have a mentorship program for those who want to be fast tracked, right? But that does come at a cost, so check it out. But let's go back to the tennis itself. Watch matches, right? The visual, it gives you loads of information. You're going to learn plenty from it, and I'm sure by watching loads of matches, it's not going to take you long to immerse yourself and actually start getting those results. Go to tournaments, even if it's 1 or 2, just actually go there, get the feel for it, know what's going on. I would also suggest that you actually find a routine, the way you bet and the way you process your sort of data and so on, right? put odds and chance to everything. When you've got a match, you know, they're saying everything's got a price. I mean, I might think to myself, this player's going to win, but if the other player is like 10 to 1, and I think it should be 5 to 1, I'll probably still bet the other player because I'm getting fantastic value. So, you know, try to put odds to the chance and so on. Read betting previews from the likes of ourselves. We do this most days, betanalyst.com. It's all free, so that's something for you. And I would definitely suggest that you focus on the 250 tournaments. This is where the juice is, right? And also it's quiet, right? So even if you don't need the massive money down, I think this is the type of tournaments that you concentrate on, the 250 tournaments, because they're less competitive and you will get an advantage from this motivation factor that we mentioned earlier. The real litmus test at the end of the day is the ROI, the return on investment, and the CLV, the closing line value. If you are beating the closing line value regularly, you're going to win. It is that simple. So the last thing I want to leave you with is effort equals reward. Entitled people deservedly get nothing from this game. Don't just listen to tipsters. Most of them are full of it, right? I mean, if you do want to get our tips, you can read through them yourself and figure it out. Do subscribe to the channel, and that's about it for now. You're through to boot camp again. We'll catch you in the next one soon. Take care. Bye-bye.